I lived in Texas and my parents moved up to Toronto in 1993. My uncle from Coiner, who owned Coiner, asked my parents if they could move from Texas to Toronto, and we were kind of all in university and stuff, so it was a good time for my parents to move back to Canada. So my parents moved up here in 1993 and they not ran it, but they looked after it. I had just moved here from Texas in 1996, and one of my friends had brought me down to Little India, and walking into his restaurant, and I remember trying the chana masala, and I just fell in love. I'm like, oh my God, this is the best chana masala I've ever had. And so Alnoor was actually behind the counter, and I remember distinctively he was wearing his black turtleneck, and I'm just like, oh my God, what a good looking man. And then I remember him coming over and flirting with us with his chilies on a stick. And then he kind of just sat down at the table and we were talking, and we found out how much we actually had in common, because we're both born in Kampala in Uganda. And we had both come, here as myself as a refugee, him, as he states, and he stated, an immigrant. And then we just started talking and, became friends. And I remember he was, that day I only had my American Express card with me and I didn't have any cash on me. And so I said to him, I said, I only have an American Express card. And he goes, don't worry, I'll just get your name and your number. And that's kind of how we met. My husband put 20 years of his life into this restaurant, and he passed away of a heart attack. The rickshaw brings a lot of memories. There's a beautiful picture of Adam, Ayan, and Alnoor on the rickshaw that now I use as my logo for Lahore Tikka House. And I've named the tent after Alnoor. It's called Alnoor's Tent, and it's got a picture of Adam, Ayan, and Alnoor on the rickshaw. So that often I think about that. Alnoor sat right here. Also, I think a lot of memories, because when people talk about Lahore Tikka House, it's always, is that the restaurant with the rickshaw? And Alnoor was so proud because he brought the rickshaw all the way from Pakistan. And he must have, with Alnoor, anything could happen. Like, he would make anything happen. So he, I think, had a lot of fun going to Pakistan and picking out the rickshaw and bringing it here. And it was very special to him, and he kept it in very good shape. But unfortunately, I don't think I've done as good a job as he did. So I apologize. Yeah. How he proposed to me was he got my mom on the rickshaw, this rickshaw right here. He got my mom on the rickshaw. He had her bicycle all the way down, her and him bicycle down. I was at the restaurant doing something, working, I think, and he came and he got me, and he went down on his hands and knees, and I think it was right in the tent actually where he got on his hands and knees and he proposed to me in front of all my family, because he had them all flown in. My grandfather flew in from Vancouver and they all surprised me, and it was actually in the patio where he proposed. Yeah. Yeah. When I was growing up, everybody would ask, like, where are you from? And I would say, I was born in Uganda, but my answers are from Gujarat. I'm Gujarati. And, that gave me a sense of belonging to something. And then it was funny because in 1998, Alnoor and I went to India for our honeymoon. It was culture shock because I was like, I don't understand the language. I can't speak the language. People look so different. I felt like, oh my God, this is so different from what I thought I was. And then also because I was brought up here in Canada, time was very different. Relationships were very different. But it was really interesting because Alnoor was able to totally immerse, and he actually felt like he was back home again, and he was able, because he spoke the language and he loved the relationships and he loved the sense of the time, no urgency. It was all about, people, and he loved it. He loved India and Pakistan, when he went, and it was so different for me. And after, I've gone back 2 or 3 times, but I still feel like, there's a gap, and I think the gap really has to do with the language piece. And I think that was very difficult when I came into Lahore Tikka House, and I feel like that was one of the barriers that I had.